Okay, so this is not a planned video at all, and this is literally about, I would say, 12:46 in the night. And here is the actual timing if you want to see. Now I was using this MonsGeek M1 version 5 keyboard. This is the latest one that I just got in my studio because I was using the Keychron K2 from a very long time. But recently I just sold that keyboard just so that I can upgrade and see that what is the latest thing that is there in the market. And I just heard a lot of reviews about the latest keyboards to be a bit more creamy, a bit more talky, and a few of them a bit more clicky. So I just wanted to see that what is the best that what I can get in the market, and so I got this one. As we have in this studio a very heavy one actually, so I just have to lift it from two hands. So this is the version that I have got in the black. This is the quick disassembly model with the wire compatibility. Again, the reason to make this video at this late in the night is because I'm getting a lot of issues with this keyboard, and I just wanted to make a video because a lot of the other ones that I saw in the YouTube videos, I just did not get to see a lot of, I would say, the bugs, the rush, and the things that I just wanted to hear about. And that is an honest review about this keyboard as we have got in this studio. Now, I'm not a keyboard guy at all, and I just do not know a lot about the mechanical keyboards. And that is not even a problem with this one because out of the box, I think that this one is one of the best sounding keyboards that I have ever used. In fact, I also tried to change the switches on this keyboard from the piano ones that are the ones that came as a default on this keyboard to something that was the one from the Gatron. I actually tried the Gatron Cap anniversary switches that I just got in my studio. I purchased it with my own money, and I just wanted to see the difference because the difference was quite a lot actually. I think the ones from the Gatrons were a bit more muted and a bit more silent with a heavier weight in comparison to the piano switches as what we have got on this keyboard. But the first is not really about the switches on this thing because I'm just very pleased with the sound that what this thing is capable of and what I just got out of the box. But here is the list of the things that what I want to talk about in this video. Now the first thing is that when I unboxed this product and when I took a closer look at this product, I was surprised to see that there were a few scratches on the keycaps, and I could just not really just get a notice of this thing at the first glance. But when I looked closely at the keycaps on this keyboard, I realized that a few of them were actually scratched and scuffed, and this is how that these keycaps were as what you can see in this video. And there is another one, and there are a few other ones as well, and as you can see that these are a bit more scratched, and I think so that the ones that were scratched are mostly the ones that were a part of the stabilizers, and I will come on to that thing later on to this video because I know that what might have happened to this keyboard. Now this is what I saw on a few of the keycaps, and that does show that the quality of the keycaps is not the one that is the best one. Now the reason that why I say that it might be due to the stabilizers is just because that the person who might be assembling this thing at the very first place, he might have just not assembled it in the very perfect way, and he might have tried to pull this thing out, and that might have just bent a few of the stabilizers, and that was exactly that what I was able to see on the spacebar of this keyboard because it was a bit bent in the stabilizer thing, and I just had to put that thing back to its original position by putting some pressure, which means that someone who was playing with this keyboard before it was shipped to me, he just made some mistake, and that is why I could see that almost every keycap that was part of a stabilizer, it had some kind of scratches of some form whatsoever, but all the other keys are just fine, and that is just a very bad quality control on the keyboard side from MonsGeek, at least in this very specific case as I just have in the studio. Now just because of that, there is another problem that was created on this keyboard, and that is the keycap itself. Now this is a cherry profile keycap as what is mentioned on the official website, and I actually had two different sets of the cherry profile keycaps that I had in my studio. I tried to put it on top of what I already have on this one, and I immediately noticed that the difference in the profile that what we have on this versus what I have in my studio. Now it could be that I just do not have one of the best quality of the keycaps in the studio, but the ones that I had, it is a bit more flat, and it is a bit more like what we have got on the Keychronos and the other keyboards that we have got in the market. But this one, it is a bit more rounded, just like the modern Keychron keyboards, and also the ones that are just like the X-ray profiles or something. Again, I'm not an expert with this thing, but the way that this thing is really different from the keycaps that what I have got in my studio. Now the only way is that either I apply just the entire kit on this keyboard, which I really do not want to, because I just want some mix match of the colors on this thing, which it really looks great in my opinion. I just paired this thing with this orange one and a few, or actually just one of the keycap that is just in this white color, and I just love the way that this thing looks. And by this t-shirt, you know that I just love the orange color and the teal color as one of my favorite ones. So I just take the look as what I have got in the studio. But the thing is that because of the different keycaps that what I have got, it is just not a very pleasant experience to use the spacebar and the other keys that I just installed, and that is due to the difference in the heights of these keycaps versus what we have got as the original ones. But this is again not one of the biggest bummers as what I was experiencing on this keyboard. The reason that I really made this video is just because I was not able to map the function keys on this thing with the default ones that what we have got on the Mac. Now I just did a lot of research. I also tried to use the VIA web application to map the keys manually, but I was still not able to use these keys as what it was intended to. I might be doing something wrong, but something that you can just comment in the comment section below. But what I was trying to do again was as an alternative option, that there is an option in the Mac keyboard settings where you can enable the function keys to be used as the standard function keys. And so according to a quick Google search, if you enable this option, you should be able to use the function keys on this keyboard as the normal one. But after I enabled this thing and restarted my Mac, I was still not able to use the function keys as normal. And also I tried to reset this keyboard a multiple time and still I was not able to use it properly. The only way to use these keys is just to use the function plus F1 or F2 or F3 and to be able to use this thing as a normal one. For example, if I use the F1 plus F3 key combination, I would be able to open the mission control. If I use the F1 plus F4, I would be able to use the spotlight, and this is the way that how I can use the function key on this thing. But on a normal keyboard, just like what we have got from Keychron, or even I have got this very cheap keyboard that is from Logitech that I'm using it right now because I'm not able to use the function key on the other one. So this is the way that I'm using this thing. If I just use the F3 key, it would be opening the mission control without even pairing it with a function key or something. That is the way that how you use the default keyboard on the Mac, and it is just not using it in the similar way. When I use the function key with F3 or F4, it is the way that how you can use a Windows keyboard with this thing, which really means that this is not a keyboard for me because it is not pairing the keys correctly, and it actually really feels like that this is more of a keyboard that is just being catered toward the people who are into the Windows PC rather than the people who are into the Mac user experience, just like what I am here over here in the studio. But one thing that I am really pissed off this keyboard, even though that we have got a lot of spare keycaps in the bundle that what we get with the MonsGeek M1 V5 version, there is just not even a single keycap that was included into this set. That was really a Mac one, just like the CMT key or some other key that is really centered towards the Mac. Even I noticed that the Keychron keyboard that what I had in the past, it had different options that were just labeled with the function keys. So for example, it is a mission control. There was a small icon for mission control just below the F3 function key on that keyboard, and the same thing was for all the other function keys as what we could pair it with a Mac OS versus the Windows one, which is a very good take. But most of the people who might be using these keyboards like this one from MonsGeek, they might be the ones who might be modding it, and they might just get the separate set of keycaps. But for the people who are the beginners and the people who just do not want to put a lot of efforts into a keyboard, but they still want a very good keyboard like this one in the terms of the feel and the looks, I think that they should have just put some extra efforts and make this thing a bit more compatible with Mac. Just something that I'm saying, but I know that a lot of people would not agree with me and I would just get a lot of negative comments. But for the people who just want this thing to be used with a Mac, that this just might not be one of the best experience that you can get with a keyboard. Now another thing that what I noticed with this thing is that there is just no dongle holder for this keyboard, which is a very bad thing because a lot of keychrome keyboards, even the entry-level ones that are might be a bit more expensive, are actually not expensive, a bit more cheaper than this one as we have in the studio. They also have got a type C dongle and along with a type A dongle as well, and both of them have some kind of storage in the keyboard itself, so you just do not lose those dongles when you travel around. But this thing is such a heavy piece of metal that even though if it was some kind of dongle storage on this keyboard, you might still not be able to carry this keyboard in a lot of places. Also, one more thing that I just did not like about this keyboard is that is something that I'm really surprised about, that if I just want to turn this keyboard on and off, I just every time need to take out this caps lock key from this keyboard, which is just very annoying. And even if I just want to change from the Windows mode to the Mac mode and vice versa, I still need to do the very same thing every single time. And I'm using the keychrome keyboard from the past 4 years or so, or at least I think even more than that, and I just did not have to do this thing again and again, because I just had a very small switch on the, I think it was on the right, or I think it was on the left side of the keyboard, and that just made the things a bit more easy. And that was a keyboard that was launched like 4 or 5 years ago, and this is the latest one, the 5th iteration of the MonsGeek M1 version. And I just do not know that what this company was thinking while putting the on off switch under the keycap, and just not one of the best experiences that what you can get with this keyboard. Now the other thing is the ball catch mechanism. When I got this keyboard, it was a bit more loose, so because it was misaligned, there was one issue that what I got with this keyboard. Now I just did not know in my wildest dream that I would get a keyboard that was half disassembled, because the magnets were not pulled in perfectly on this keyboard. It might be just because of the transportation, as MonsGeek just did not use any kind of extra protection to be able to ship this keyboard to me, which ended up in really spoiling the packaging of this thing. And I could just see a lot of dents or the smudges on the packaging itself. And even though that I said specifically to this company that I just need this keyboard to be in front of my door rather than being into the lobby of my apartment, they still did not deliver this product in front of my door, which was something that was not a nicer experience, because I paid extra money to this company to be able to ship this product. And on top of that, there was also a shipping protection, which is just a very bad story, because this is not the best experience in my opinion. But that is something that is a different thing. But what I really want to mention over here is that just because of the poor packaging, the ball catch mechanism on this keyboard was a bit more loose, and I was just not aware about the very same thing. And when I opened this keyboard, I tried to rotate the knob on this keyboard, which was scratching against the surface. Now it did not really scratch anything on this keyboard, and I was just lucky about that, because this is not a anodized aluminum that what we have got in this keyboard. It is just a spray coated one. But what ended up happening was that because of this thing, I could just see a bit of smudges, or I would say some kind of marks that were left by this knob that was rubbing against this keyboard, which is not the best experience. Now one more thing that I just might be nitpicking as of this video is that when I first saw this keyboard, I saw that the tab key and the caps lock key, the distance between those keys was just a bit more misaligned. It was not in the straight line as what I could see in the other keys on the rows of this keyboard. Now I specifically, just because of this thing, I immediately tried to put the other keys at what I have got in my studio, and I could still see the same gap in the terms of, or I would say the less gap that I was able to see between the tab and the caps lock key, which is another unpleasant experience on this keyboard. Because when I sometimes stare at this keyboard, because again it just looks as one of the best and the most beautiful keyboards as what I have ever seen, but when I stare at it, sometimes I see that the keys are a bit more misaligned, which is not something that you would just want to have on a keyboard that is this expensive, but something that you have to deal with, that the quality of control by MonsGeek is not one of the best one, and that is again a very sad thing. I'm not too sure if you're able to see this thing over here or no. I tried to just make it a bit more aligned, and just to make sure that it is a bit more aligned, and just jiggling around with the keys, and I still think so that it looks better with this orange keys, because it is not as of the bigger keycaps as what you have got on this original ones, and just because of that the gap is a bit more pronounced than what we already had on the original ones. That does really make it a very bad one, but this one, it does fix it to a very large extent. Now one more thing that I noticed on this keyboard is that there is a gasket, or not a gasket, like a rubber uh, thing that is on the back of this keyboard, like this thing that is holding the USB type C connector that is just on the back of this thing. And this is a very good design in general because it would just not scratch off the surface on this keyboard, and MonsGeek did think about it. But the thing is that just because of that you cannot use any kind of third-party cable with this keyboard. The one that I've got is one of the best one, but I can just not use this thing with this keyboard because the connector on my cable is a bit more thick than what we have got with the one that the MonsGeek gives us, and that is why that they might have included this cable with this keyboard. But I just do not want to have multiple cables lying on my desk, which is just one of the downgrades that what I wanted to discuss in this video. But one thing again that I noticed is that when I was using the switches, those are the one from Gatrons, the sound is a bit more muted. So let me just put it over here. So this is a sound from Gatron, and this is the one from what you get with MonsGeek. So if you just like the talky feel, I think you just go with the ones that you just get from the stock ones. But if you just want a bit more muted voice, might be a bit more creamier, then I think the ones that are the anniversary switches from Gatron are one of the best ones that what I experienced. And with that said, actually I do not have a lot of bad things to say about this keyboard because the typing experience is actually good. The build quality is good. It is about 2 kilograms or more in weight, and again it is just a very hefty device in my experience. And mostly what I really like to do is that whenever I'm sitting on the desk and when I just want to be relaxed, I just put my legs on top of my desk. That is not the best thing, and I put this keyboard on top of my lap. That is how I was using the Keychron one. But just because of the weight of this thing, it is very difficult for me to even lift this thing from the desk that what I have got in the studio and put it on my lap, because this is a very heavy keyboard and there is no slants or the way that we can just pull this keyboard up from the table to put it on the lamp. Normally the keyboard have some kind of wedges that is just on below of what is there of the general shape, and that is to just pull off the keyboard and just put it wherever you want to. But just because of a plain simple design that what we have got on this MonsGeek, that a lot of people might like, and I do really like this design as well, but the only caveat is that it is very heavy keyboard, and just because that there is no a sub portion that is on the downside of this keyboard, it is very difficult to just pull this keyboard from the desk and put it anywhere else. That's something again what I experienced, but that really does not mean that it is a bad keyboard, because it is a very heavy keyboard and people generally do like the keyboards that have got some kind of weight to them. In fact, a lot of the keyboards like the Rainy 75, it has got a separate weight that is on the back of the keyboard, and the same thing is with I think the Vermeer SK75 and all the other ones that are the latest ones in the market. There is some kind of weight on the back of the keyboard just to make the keyboard a bit more heavy. I did not see any kind of weight that is added separately to this chassis, but I just do not know that how this thing is a bit more heavy, because when I pulled off the top plate of this thing, the top cover actually, I just did not feel a lot of weight. It is not as heavy, but the bottom part of this is what makes this keyboard a bit more heavy. Now one more thing is that because it is a ball catch mechanism, it is very easy to take this thing off, but it just does not come off by itself. But just taking it off is just pulling this thing from the downwards, and you can just lift this thing off, and that would be with a bit of ease. Now to the rest of the things that what I want to mention about in this keyboard is the way that the RGB works on this thing. Now the RGB on this thing is way much more better than what I had got on my Keychron one. It was not certainly one of the worst ones, but just because that I had got a very old model, it just was not one of the best one. But this thing, it is really good. Now if you just use the function keys and the combination with delete, you will be able to toggle between the different settings, the pre-built settings for the RGB lighting on this keyboard, but you can also control the individual light by doing the FN plus I would say the up arrow, the down arrow, the right arrow, and the left arrow. Some of them are just for changing the colors, and a few of the other ones are for changing the brightness from the high to the low ones. I think if you just do up, it will increase the brightness, but if you just use the Fn plus down, it will start to decrease the brightness until the point where it would be just the 0 1. But also the volume knob on this thing is also one of the better ones. It is not one of the smallest ones as what I have seen in the market. It is made of metal, and also I just love the click sound on this thing, and also the clickiness that what you get with this thing is one of the best ones that I have seen in the keyboard as well. So certainly not a very bad keyboard. It just needs a bit more of optimization. It just needs a bit more of love and a bit more of thinking that MonsGeek should have just put in the version 5 of this keyboard. But I just really like this keyboard. When I took this thing apart using the ball and catch mechanism, I saw that there are two cables for the battery, and the other one is for connecting this thing to the knob. That is a separate module for this one. But the thing is that the form on this thing is just a bit more thick in my opinion, and it is just a very I would say a gluey, not a gluey thing, it is just a very tightly fleshed thing to the board of this keyboard. And the material that they use for this foam, I just do not know the exact name of this white foam. It just, I think if it is just being resting for some time, it just glues or it sticks to the board in a manner that is not the perfect one. So when you peel it, you will feel that there is a bit more resistance to this thing, or you might also be breaking this thing whatsoever because of the way that it is just tightly glued or adhered to the board. So something that is not one of the best things, but it is just not one of the worst ones, because it does make this keyboard to feel and to sound a bit more talky in my opinion, but certainly something that not a lot of people would like. And well, now with that said, that was all that what I wanted to share about in this keyboard. This is certainly one of the best keyboards that you can pick in the market right now, and for about 150 Canadian dollars there is just not a lot to complain. But just keep in mind that this is not a keyboard that is meant for the Mac users. I would just go with something like Keychron or Numpy if I want to be a Mac user, because again I just did not know this thing before purchasing this keyboard. But if you're watching this video, I think that this is a bit of information that you just need to keep in mind before picking up this MonsGeek M1 V5 version. Certainly not a bad keyboard, but certainly not one of the best recommendations that what I have for today. Well, that was all about this video. My name is Anshul. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.